What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabs, and besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my miniverse. Summer is right around the corner, so let's get ready with a few MyFroggyStuff videos. I went through our video library and picked out a few videos for some summer fun. So sit back, relax, and enjoy for another MyFroggyStuff mashup. After unboxing Barbie Loves the Ocean dolls and playsets, I thought we could totally use a beach in a hidden doll room. You know, something that's easy to store. My current beach setup is, not so easy to set up. So yeah, let's make something easier. And we are going to recycle a cardboard box for this project. It's going to look a little different. It's not going to match my usual look with the nice white outside finish. And we're probably going to have to piece things together because it's not the ideal shape. But when you're recycling, sometimes you have to make a few allowances. Luckily, this box does go 13 inches up on some of the sides, so that's good. We will also be using scrapbook paper. I bought this book at Michael's. They had a great deal, buy one, get one free. And I thought this scene right here would be perfect for our beach. We're gonna need 2 pieces. I will also be using a bamboo placemat and a sand print scrapbook paper. For this box in particular, we are going to have to deconstruct it to get some flat pieces. So let's cut off the top, then I cut off the bottom to get a large piece. Then repeat so we know what we are working with. I have 3 nice size pieces. We can use 2 for the walls and this large one here for the floor. And I'm going to flip them so the clean sides are facing out. We'll see the Amazon box logos on the inside, which we'll eventually cover with paper anyway, and we'll have a nice clean look on our shelves. Since the box already has folds and creases, we're just gonna reinforce this crease here. We're gonna use that as the part of the box that can swing open. So remove tape, stickers, whatever may be on the box. We do have another crease right here that we don't want. So I am measuring that space, which is about 15 inches. Cut a piece of poster board to glue on top to smooth out the cardboard. The poster will get rid of those corrugated lines and prevent us from seeing any of the images through our scrapbook paper. However, this is completely optional. You can skip this step if you choose. I'm going to cover this side as well, leaving a tiny gap in between, so that side can still bend. Now we need to add more wall over here. So let's measure this side, which is about 13 by 15, and cut another piece of cardboard. We are going to cover this wall with a bamboo mat, so we don't need to worry about covering it with poster board. However, my bamboo mat doesn't go all the way to the top. So let's glue a scrap of scrapbook paper across the bottom. Then we'll just glue the bamboo mat up a little higher. But before we do, let's go ahead and create the floor. Take that last piece of cardboard that we cut and measure it to the long wall. Look at that, it's already the right length. So we just need to cut it down on the side. Once that's done, it already has creases in it, so that is perfect for the floor because we want our floor to fold up for easy storage. Cover it with scrapbook paper. I'm using a sand print. We do have a few seams, but I can live with that. Let's add a little of this sandpaper to the bottom of our back wall, then glue on the beach scrapbook paper. I used 2 pieces of the same scrapbook paper, and I did end up with a large seam in the middle, but that was expected. If you wish to avoid the seam, you can always use a poster that is a lot larger and will cover that space without a seam. Or you can try painting your own background. Whenever I usually have a seam, I just place something in front of it like a tree or an umbrella, and then you don't even notice it. Or just strategically place the doll in front of it. Now, let's put it all together. Match the bend on the wall with the bend on the floor. And we're just going to glue these two parts right there at the bottom together. Then glue on the other side to make a corner room. Glue the placemat onto the wall, making sure to glue it down on the end securely so you can trim off the excess if you choose, or just hang on to it. On the back, I would like to reinforce the bottom just a little, just to make sure it doesn't come apart at the seams. So I glue paper going over the edge, and it gives it a nice little look on the shelves. Now this is a pretty large space. It's definitely bigger than most of our hidden doll rooms. So there is plenty of space for our Barbie Loves the Ocean playset, so the dolls can enjoy a day at the beach. I think this is a great wall for the beach shack or for lining up surfboards. We have lots of videos on surfboards. We recently made some on our YouTube Live, and we made some using packaging in our Barbie Loves the Ocean video. If we want to add a tree, then we can just use the doll stand from our 7 doll stands video. We made paper leaves in the video, but I think I want to switch them out. I should have cut the palms thinner like I did in one of our 7 quick crafts videos. I found this artificial plant in my craft room, and I thought we could use it to spruce up our palm a little. Remove the paper leaves, then glue on the new ones. And these are pretty good for covering up those seams. In the video, we made a paper tube, then wrapped it with a shredded paper bag. We can glue the leaves into the tube, cut a small square of leftover cardboard, cover it with scrapbook paper, make a hole, then glue the tube inside to add more palm trees. We can add kinetic sand that I like to store in a plastic bag, sprinkle it around, covering the bottom of the trees so the dolls have soft sand to wiggle their toes in. It also helps the surfboards to stand up, and it adds some fun texture. Drape LED lights along the side wall for a little sparkle, creating a great place for our dolls to spend the day at the beach. When we're ready to clean up, we just bag all of the sand. Since it's kinetic sand, it's a little easier to clean up than regular sand, in my opinion, of course. Then fold up the floor and close the side to make a hidden doll room that's easy to store. This one does have a little height, so I'll need to place it on my top shelf. I place the sand in a separate box so it doesn't break the bottom of my hidden doll room. And everything fits neatly on the shelf. This is a pretty easy hidden doll room to create because you don't need to build a lot of stuff to make a doll beach. Technically, all you need is a picture of the ocean and some sand. Then use projects from previous videos, like our doll lounge chair, to make a place for our dolls to soak up some sun. And we can use little flashlights to give us that glow. Thank you for joining us while we made a beach in a hidden doll room using recycled cardboard. If you are looking for more space-saving options for your doll beach this summer, then check out our La Kiddos doll review where we make a scrapbook doll beach. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! Up, y'all? I went back to Dollar Tree looking for more stuff for the dollhouse. I picked up that gold dress again, and again, and again. I also got a towel. This says bar mop, towel. That's just a basic white towel. And we got some socks. I was thinking we could give these items a little makeover. So get ready for Dollar Tree Makeover. This is one pair of stretchy socks. It's in a nude color. The fabric stretches both ways, so that's good. I'm using a Barbie color reveal doll as a model. Let's see what happens when we just stretch this over her body. I think there's enough material here to make a quick little tube. So let's turn it inside out, place it on the doll, judge where we need to sew a line. For me, I think it's pretty much the center of the sock. So I fold it in half, tucking the toe inside the heel or the heel inside the toe, and I'm going to sew a straight line going all the way down. I go back and forth to lock the stitch over the elastic. Then I stretch out the fabric and try to sew a straight line. Lock the stitch again at the end. Try it on the doll for size. All right, it looks like a pretty good fit. Carefully trim off the excess, remove it from the doll, flip it inside out to make a tube dress we can use for undergarments. I have another sock, so let's try it again, only this time I want it to be a little wider at the bottom, so I'm sewing my line at an angle. Well, as much as I can with this tiny piece of fabric. Okay, we kinda did it. Trim off the excess. Let's open it up and place the seam in the center. And we're gonna sew a tiny little curve going right over the seam. I'm trying my best to make the arch as small as possible, and my alignment is off a little. But let's see if it worked. Cut out the notch, flip it inside out to make a body shaper. I wonder if we can use a pattern. This is our doll underwear and sports bra pattern. I place the pattern from edge to edge, then cut it out. This fabric moves a lot, so you've been warned. On the curve for the leg opening, I fold over the edge and I'm sewing it down with a back stitch. And that's where I go in a little before the last stitch. Then I'm gonna go back in, oops, sorry, dropped my needle. Then I'm gonna go back in after that stitch, but before the previous one, and then go again before, and then go back. So it's just repeated back and forth. Hand sewing allows me to have just a little bit more control over the fabric, especially with ones that I'm not quite as good at, like these super stretchy materials. And I'm just gonna take my time, keeping my stitches as tight and close together as possible. After sewing both sides, it's a little wonky, but let's just keep going to see how it turns out. We're gonna fold it in half, so the good side is on the inside, then stitch up the sides. And I'm using a straight stitch. And I'm going to go back and forth a few times to make sure it's going to hold. Once both sides have been sewn, flip it inside out to make a pair of undies. Take the other sock and cut a rectangle out of the center, fold over the edges, and sew a back stitch on the top and bottom, then fold it in half and sew it closed to make a matching tube top, creating our own little Skims-inspired collection made with socks from the Dollar Tree. And if you want to add a little pinch in the center, we can just use a needle and thread to make a few stitches in the center, then pull it tight and tie it for more detail. Very simple designs here. Easy projects for an afternoon. And now, my favorite golden Dollar Tree dress. In our last Dollar Tree video, we turned it into a pair of harem pants with the top. Let's try to use our underwear pattern to make a bathing suit. First, I cut off the skirt and down the seam to open it up. Place the pattern on top and cut it out. with the good side facing down, fold over and hem the edges of the curves. This might take a little maneuvering. So both sides, fold over and hem the top. Then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch in the back, so it has a little bit of give. This fabric doesn't have a ton of stretch, but it does have a little bit. Now we're going to fold it in half, so the good side is on the inside, matching up the sides. Sew a straight line on the side to make a bikini bottom. Cut a rectangle of leftover fabric, fold over and hem the top and bottom using a straight stitch. Wrap it around the doll for size. Add Velcro so it can overlap and close. Next, let's cut a thin strip of fabric, and the direction does matter. So if this was the dress long ways, I'm just going to cut a thin strip, about 1/4 of an inch on the side. Pull it at both ends to make a string. Let's run it through the sides of the bathing suit. Tie a little bow for a little decoration. Let's try again. Cut out the pattern to make another pair of bikini bottoms. Cut another rectangle that can fit around the doll's torso. Hem the top and bottom. Wrap it around the doll for size and sew up the back using a straight stitch. To make a simple little tube, let's pinch and sew a little gather up the center to give our top a little more shape for a loose fit tankini. And we can just take the bottom and turn it a little so it's kind of twisted for another look, because it's good to have options. I have one dress left. Cut off the skirt, open it up, fold it in half, cut off a section, remove the bottom hem, cut 2 more strips. These are probably a little over 1/2 an inch. Fold over and hem the sides, trying to keep it as neat as possible to make a strap. Repeat to make 2. Cut a scrap of fabric to get a rectangle. Fold over and hem one side. Then fold over the other edges and make a crease just on the sides. Take the larger rectangle we cut earlier, lay it flat, fold over and hem the top and bottom. Take the rectangle with the folded over sides, and I want it to end up right about here, so I'm going to just flip it over where I think my line is going to be. I'm going to sew a straight line going across. To connect them, then we're going to flip it up and sew down the sides right along the edge. To make a pocket, take the handles and sew them onto the top. I placed mine right about at the ends of the pocket. Sew on the other strap to make handles, then fold it in half. Sew down the sides, flip it inside out to make a matching tote. I have a nice size piece of fabric left over. Fold it in half, cut a rounded edge, so we end up with a semicircle. Turn it over, fold over, and hem the edge. Sewing around a curve is a little tricky for me, so I just go really slow and take my time. Then fold over and hem the top. Wrap it around the doll and decide where you want to place the Velcro. Sew it on. On the side that will be facing out, cut a wedge out of a scrap of fabric. I'm going to tie it in the center, then stitch it onto the corner. I sewed it on so the ends are pointing down to make a golden sarong that we paired with the top from our harem pants. But maybe there is enough fabric to make her a top of her own. I have some leftover scraps here. Let's cut out a triangle, then cut the bottom corners kind of flat. Place it onto another scrap and cut out 4. Make a couple of those thin cords. Lay the triangles so the good side is facing up. Place one end of the cord at the top of the triangle. Lay the other triangle on top, sandwiching the cord in between. Sew along the top 2 sides. making sure to sew through the cord, then down the other side, leaving the bottom open. So we can flip it inside out and have the cord attached to the top. Then let's fold in the opening so it's all tucked in, so it closed using a blind stitch. Run the cord through an embroidery needle, push it through the bottom of the triangle, coming out the other end. Repeat to make 2. Tie the strings around the doll's neck and back for a string bikini top, giving us a golden swimsuit collection this season. With all this swimwear, we might need a towel. This is the bar mop towel from the Dollar Tree. It's pretty thin. I like the little stripy design there. I open it up and lay it flat. I'm using our towel pattern. This is available on our blog, myfroggystuff.blogspot.com. We'll put a link to the blog in the description box below. If you don't want to print it out, this is just an 11 by 4¼ inch rectangle. I'm going to cut it a little larger because we need a seam allowance. Mine is more like 5½ by 12 inches. So a zigzag stitch going around the edge. I made my line just a little bit on the inside to make sure it grabbed the fabric. Then fold over and hem the sides. My hem is about 1/4 inch. You can do a straight stitch or a zigzag. I went with a zigzag, then just fold over and hem the top and bottom. To quickly make a large towel that we can fold all nice and neatly for our mini world. And it's a pretty good length for the dolls. I was able to make 3 doll-sized beach towels. I think it's safe to say our dolls are ready for the summer. So we made 6 different looks and a beach towel, bringing us to 7 crafts. Thank you for joining us while we made 7 crafts from the Dollar Tree. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabs, and besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my Miniverse. I am in the process of moving back into my studio. Yay! But it's taking a lot of cleaning, so I'm taking a quick break to do a little crafting. After our Crocs video, some of you wanted to know if we could make a miniature bogg bag. What is a bogg bag? This is a bogg bag. They come in a couple of sizes and tons of different colors. They're kind of like if Crocs were a tote bag, and they can be a little pricey. I've seen a lot of dupes out there. Five Below had a nice one that I can't find. So let's make one in miniature for the dolls. Using craft foam, we have some leftovers from our Crocs video. Check out this video if you want to know how we made the Crocs. We might use a few puffy stickers as well for decorations, hot glue, and paper, and a pencil to draw a pattern. I'm going to use my cell phone and trace the bottom to make a pattern. Let's add a few dots, cut it out. Let's draw a strip. I'm making a rectangle that's about 3/4 inch wide. I made it a little longer than I need at about 7½ inches. And the straps, I think we're just gonna freehand those later. So let's take a piece of craft foam. I bought this at Michael's. It's 6 by 9 inches. It came in a pack. Place the pattern on top and trace around it. After tracing the long strip, let's do the bag right under it, and we're just gonna share that line and trace the front and back of the bag. And let's push right through the paper on the dots so we know where they're supposed to go. Then let's take a protected surface. I'm using an old cutting mat from the dollar store that I don't use for cutting. Place the foam on top. Then I use the tip of my hot glue gun to go right over those holes and kinda make a larger hole. See? This can leave small holes in the cutting mat. That's why I'm using an old one. Continue making the holes until they're all done. I added a second one on the same 6x9 piece of craft foam. I put the long strip on the side. Right next to it, let's add a few thin strips. These are about 1/8 of an inch for the handles. Then cut them out. Once we have our pieces for the bag, there are 5. Take the long strip, then glue it to the back of the front panel. I'm using a little hot glue on the inside. Then I quickly just allow the foam to touch it, and then I move it to where I want it. Hopefully, we won't end up with a bunch of big globs of glue. Not too bad. Once one side is attached, we can flip it over and glue on the other. This side is a little more challenging, but if we just go slow and glue a little bit at a time, we should be okay. Once both sides are glued, we can trim off the excess, take the straps or handles and decide on a length and trim off the excess, then use a little hot glue to glue them on. First on one side, flip it over, then glue on the other. And I decided to round the ends just a little before gluing them in place. To make an easy summer tote, I make the smaller one the same way so we can have options. We can take it a step further and use a hole punch on white craft foam or paper to get small circles, then glue them onto the straps. For a little more detail, we can also take puffy stickers. I got these at Target a while ago. I pick out the one that I want, then apply it to the bag to decorate them. And now our dolls have a little tote to carry all of their stuff when they're headed to the pool. We can take baby washcloths from the dollar store, cut them into long rectangles. I fold over the top just a little, then roll it to make a quick towel for the bag. It's important they have water, it's hot, so let's add our DIY hydro flask that we like to call our hydro frog to the bag. There's a video. And from our skincare video, let's add a little sunblock and body spray to the bag. A Barbie cell phone with a little hand bracket can easily fit over the side. We can take some of the leftover craft foam and the pattern for the foot from our doll Crocs, trace it 2 to 3 times, cut them out. With the pencil side facing down, let's stack and glue them together. Cut another strip of foam, make a few holes, then glue it from one side to the other. Cover the exposed edges with a little craft foam. Repeat to make 2 to make a quick pair of matching slides. This little bag is pretty easy to make and it doesn't require a lot of supplies. So all the dolls in the dollhouse can enjoy a new bogg-inspired bag. And if I've been saying that wrong the whole time, I do apologize. Thank you for joining us while we made a quick craft for our dolls. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the frog vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. Bye! What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabs, and besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my miniverse. Today, we are doing requests from some of you. Toya, can you make Crocs? I have been working on a pair. I wear Crocs every single day, so yeah, of course, the dolls need a pair too. I made this one out of craft foam. I think we can try again and be a little neater. I'm using scraps of paper to make a pattern, and let's change the toe shape a little. I sketched out the top of the shoe and then cut them out. Trace the pattern on craft foam. I traced the bottom of the shoe 3 times and the top once for each shoe. Then I flip the pattern over and trace it for the opposite shoe. Then cut them out. Okay, so I did a quick test run off camera, and I think we need to make a few changes to the pattern. I think it's a little too long right here, and we need to adjust the top of the shoe a little. Trace it onto craft foam, cut it out. If we end up with a few pencil marks on our craft foam, that's okay, because we'll just use the other side as the good side. We have 3 pieces for the bottom of our shoe and 1 for the top. Let's take the one for the top and just bend and stretch it a little to try to create that croc shape, but only in the front. I do not pull the smaller tabs. Let's take a piece of paperboard. We are going to use it as a protected surface. Take the top of the shoe and lay it with the good side facing down. I'm going to use the nozzle of my precision tip hot glue gun and press it into the foam. Then carefully remove it to make a hole. If you don't have a precision hot glue gun, you can always try using a needle and a dotting tool, or even a hole punch if it will work on craft foam. Continue to make more. Take one of the bottom cutouts with the good side facing up. Let's take the top of the shoe and line it up, flip it over. I use my hot glue gun to add just a little glue to the edge. Then glue the edge of the bottom of the shoe to the edge of the top of the shoe, a little bit at a time, going down the sides to the center of the heel. When both sides meet, trim off the excess, and it already looks like a little shoe. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush to try to give it a little more shape, being careful not to split the foam. Glue the other 2 layers of craft foam underneath. Cut thin strips of craft foam. Starting at the heel, glue it going around the bottom of the shoe, covering those edges. Let's cut a super thin strip to glue over the seam if needed. If you are super neat, you can probably skip this step. I'm going to use my paintbrush to just push the top of the shoe up a little by stretching the foam. We can also run the edge of our hot glue gun right on that piece of craft foam. It's going to melt it just a little. Then quickly use the paintbrush to help hold it in shape while it cools. Cut another strip of craft foam. I run the edge of my hot glue gun down the center so it kind of dips in the center. Cut it to the desired length, round the corners, then glue it onto the shoe, or sew it on with a needle and thread so it can move. I use a small hole punch on cardstock and glue it over the thread to make Crocs inspired shoes for the dolls, where we can move the heel strap. It took us a minute to figure them out, but once we did, it wasn't too bad. And since they're made out of craft foam, they're pretty inexpensive to make. However, they are crafted, so we do have to be careful. If you want them to be a little bit more stable, I would suggest gluing on the strap rather than sewing it. Right now, I have them on a curvy Barbie, but if you make the heel strap a little shorter, we can get them to fit a classic Barbie. Let's check the comments. Toya, check your mail. Sorry, I went to the post office and picked up this box. Inside, we have... Is that a cake? It is! It's a miniature cake! And what? It's another pair of those brown boots! Y'all really are the best, okay? Hi, Toya. Love your work. You are inspiring. Enjoy the boots. You know, this summer is going to be a cowgirl summer. And while these aren't cowgirl boots, I think we can rock them anyway. Happily following you from YouTube and Insta at living_plastic_stories. P.S. I included a reversible wedding cake. I made using your foam and hot glue idea. Enjoy. It is reversible. We have pink and white flowers on one side. Then when we turn it around, we have red, green, and white flowers on the other. Or is that cream? But that is pretty cool. PSS. Love sci-fi, anything alien or apocalypse. Aliens in outer space, you are speaking my sci-fi language. Love Doctor Who, David Tennant. Number 10 is my fave. Totally agree. I watched 10 and 11, and then I kind of took a break. Love it all, Scooby-Doo, Charmed Vampire Diaries. The Vampire Diaries universe is one of my go-tos. I've seen the originals probably 5 times. It is always nice to meet a fellow adult miniature enthusiast. Thank you so much, Living Plastic Stories. What's next? Does the fit for love dolls? Love dolls, as in LUV, are new dolls available at Walmart. Standing under 10 inches, they have pretty detailed fashion and are fully articulated, with the dolls costing about $29.97, and there are fashion packs for $12.97. Check out our full review showing all the dolls and accessories. Now the question is, can the clothes fit a classic Barbie? Well, here is the mesh top and the shorts on our classic Barbie. Since the top was mesh, we were able to get it on our Barbie. However, it's a lot shorter and you do take the risk of puncturing holes in it with the doll's hands. But the mesh stretches and we were able to close it in the back. We were able to get the shorts on, but we cannot close them at all in the back. I found the jacket to be a little too snug. Then I tried Autumn's fashion pack, and again, it's too small. What about a petite Barbie? While it does fit a little better, we still cannot close it in the back. Here's Harper's lavender dress. I was able to get it on a petite Barbie and almost close it in the back. What about the shoes? These are a little loose on a classic Barbie, but a pretty decent fit on a curvy. The tall boots on a classic Barbie are a little stretched out and they don't close in the back. However, Autumn's boots fit a classic Barbie pretty well. There's a little space at the top, but I don't think it's too bad. And they're a decent fit on a curvy Barbie as well. Brooke's black and green shoes from her fashion pack are a decent fit on a classic Barbie, as well as on a curvy. Brooke's gold and black shoes are a little large on a classic, and I would say a near fit for a curvy, but not perfect. Here are London sandals on a classic, not too bad. On a curvy, they look pretty good from the front and from the side, but in the back you can see that they are open. These pink shoes are a little big on a classic Barbie, but you could probably get away with it. And here they are on a curvy. I think it looks pretty good from the front, but in the back, again, you can see that it is open. Looks like a Barbie can fit their necklaces, wear their belts, and the purse just looks like a small purse. And wow, the color of this love purse is a near perfect match to this Barbie looks doll. I'm gonna say the clothes aren't a great fit for a classic or a petite Barbie. However, you can get away with some shoes and accessories, and I think many of the shoes work best on a curvy. Are they body donors for Stacy dolls? As far as skin tones, I don't have an exact match, but let's just see how the proportions look. I have the heads warming in some hot water. While waiting, there was a request to see if Venus could fit Brooke's green outfit. While I think it's a not really on the shoes, I think it's kind of a yes on the outfit. Venus does have longer legs, but since we can remove her hands, it was easy to get the top on, and we had no problem closing it in the back, which is awesome. I wonder if another outfit can fit.
Yep.
Venus can wear Brooke's pants. It was pretty easy to get them on. Here's Brooke's top. It works. And so does the jacket. They were all a pretty easy fit. I would totally add these to Venus's wardrobe. Here is the Love Doll's neck peg. I'm going to add the Barbie Stacy head, then gave her Autumn's fashion pack to get an articulated Stacy doll. We already knew the color match wasn't going to be perfect, and I do think the neck is a tiny bit long. but not terrible. I totally think this is a doll that could exist in our Barbie 1/6 scale world. This could be an opportunity to do a Stacy repaint. Maybe create a character that's a little older, but shorter than Barbie. Before we go, someone wanted to know if we could make charms for our Crocs. Wow, okay. Let's take that leftover cardstock, paint something small, like a little heart, or whatever else you can think of. Let's use our tiny scissors to cut them out. Cut a thin strip of black cardstock, glue the craft foam to the back. I hot glued mine, and once the glue has cooled, trim it to make a tiny little charm that we can push into the shoe. Oh my goodness, it works! We can add more and switch them out with different designs whenever we want. I really like how these turned out. They were so much fun to make. I will get the pattern for this up on our blog as soon as I can at myfroggystuff.blogspot.com. To all of our Fabsome besties, thank you for the amazing suggestions. And thank you for joining us today. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the Frog Vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. After unboxing Barbie Loves the Ocean dolls and playsets, I thought we could totally use a beach in a hidden doll room. You know, something that's easy to store. My current beach setup is, not so easy to set up. So yeah, let's make something easier. And we are going to recycle a cardboard box for this project. It's going to look a little different. It's not going to match my usual look with the nice white outside finish. And we're probably going to have to piece things together because it's not the ideal shape. But when you're recycling, sometimes you have to make a few allowances. Luckily, this box does go 13 inches up on some of the sides, so that's good. We will also be using scrapbook paper. I bought this book at Michael's. They had a great deal, buy one, get one free. And I thought this scene right here would be perfect for our beach. We're gonna need 2 pieces. I will also be using a bamboo placemat and a sand print scrapbook paper. For this box in particular, we are going to have to deconstruct it to get some flat pieces. So let's cut off the top, then I cut off the bottom to get a large piece. Then repeat so we know what we are working with. I have 3 nice sized pieces. We can use 2 for the walls and this large one here for the floor. And I'm going to flip them so the clean sides are facing out. We'll see the Amazon box logos on the inside, which we'll eventually cover with paper anyway, and we'll have a nice clean look on our shelves. Since the box already has folds and creases, we're just gonna reinforce this crease here. We're gonna use that as the part of the box that can swing open. So remove tape, stickers, whatever may be on the box. We do have another crease right here that we don't want. So I am measuring that space, which is about 15 inches. Cut a piece of poster board to glue on top to smooth out the cardboard. The poster will get rid of those corrugated lines and prevent us from seeing any of the images through our scrapbook paper. However, this is completely optional. You can skip this step if you choose. I'm going to cover this side as well, leaving a tiny gap in between, so that side can still bend. Now we need to add more wall over here. So let's measure this side, which is about 13 by 15, and cut another piece of cardboard. We are going to cover this wall with a bamboo mat, so we don't need to worry about covering it with poster board. However, my bamboo mat doesn't go all the way to the top. So let's glue a scrap of scrapbook paper across the bottom. Then we'll just glue the bamboo mat up a little higher. But before we do, let's go ahead and create the floor. Take that last piece of cardboard that we cut and measure it to the long wall. Look at that. It's already the right length. So we just need to cut it down on the side. Once that's done, it already has creases in it, so that is perfect for the floor because we want our floor to fold up for easy storage. Cover it with scrapbook paper. I'm using a sand print. We do have a few seams, but I can live with that. Let's add a little of this sandpaper to the bottom of our back wall, then glue on the beach scrapbook paper. I used 2 pieces of the same scrapbook paper, and I did end up with a large seam in the middle, but that was expected. If you wish to avoid the seam, you can always use a poster that is a lot larger and will cover that space without a seam. Or you can try painting your own background. Whenever I usually have a seam, I just place something in front of it like a tree or an umbrella, and then you don't even notice it. Or just strategically place the doll in front of it. Now, let's put it all together. Match the bend on the wall with the bend on the floor, and we're just going to glue these 2 parts right there at the bottom together. Then glue on the other side to make a corner room. Glue the placemat onto the wall, making sure to glue it down on the end securely so you can trim off the excess if you choose, or just hang on to it. On the back, I would like to reinforce the bottom just a little, just to make sure it doesn't come apart at the seams. So I glue paper going over the edge, and it gives it a nice little look on the shelves. Now this is a pretty large space. It's definitely bigger than most of our hidden doll rooms. So there is plenty of space for our Barbie Loves the Ocean playset, so the dolls can enjoy a day at the beach. I think this is a great wall for the beach shack or for lining up surfboards. We have lots of videos on surfboards. We recently made some on our YouTube Live, and we made some using packaging in our Barbie Loves the Ocean video. If we want to add a tree, then we can just use the doll stand from our 7 doll stands video. We made paper leaves in the video, but I think I want to switch them out. I should have cut the palms thinner like I did in one of our 7 quick crafts videos. I found this artificial plant in my craft room, and I thought we could use it to spruce up our palm a little. Remove the paper leaves, then glue on the new ones. And these are pretty good for covering up those seams. In the video, we made a paper tube, then wrapped it with a shredded paper bag. We can glue the leaves into the tube, cut a small square of leftover cardboard, cover it with scrapbook paper, make a hole, then glue the tube inside to add more palm trees. We can add kinetic sand that I like to store in a plastic bag, sprinkle it around, covering the bottom of the trees so the dolls have soft sand to wiggle their toes in. It also helps the surfboards to stand up, and it adds some fun texture. Drape LED lights along the side wall for a little sparkle, creating a great place for our dolls to spend the day at the beach. When we're ready to clean up, we just bag all of the sand. Since it's kinetic sand, it's a little easier to clean up than regular sand, in my opinion, of course. Then fold up the floor and close the side to make a hidden doll room that's easy to store. This one does have a little height, so I'll need to place it on my top shelf. I place the sand in a separate box so it doesn't break the bottom of my hidden doll room. And everything fits neatly on the shelf. This is a pretty easy hidden doll room to create because you don't need to build a lot of stuff to make a doll beach. Technically, all you need is a picture of the ocean and some sand. Then use projects from previous videos, like our doll lounge chair, to make a place for our dolls to soak up some sun. And we can use little flashlights to give us that glow. Thank you for joining us while we made a beach in a hidden doll room using recycled cardboard. If you are looking for more space-saving options for your doll beach this summer, then check out our La Kiddos doll review where we make a scrapbook doll beach. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! Experimentation Day. Today I am working with hot glue. I am going to attempt to make a removable mermaid tail out of hot glue. Part of me totally thinks this isn't going to work, but you know what? We won't know until we try. In our other hot glue videos, y'all were like, Toya, get a silicone mat. So I did. I'm going to put another mat under it just so I can move it around a little easier. Let's take a doll and wrap a piece of paper around her legs. Then draw a line on both sides. So when we remove it, we have a little bit of a pattern. Might need to even that out a little. Cut it out to make a pattern. Place it on the silicone mat, and I'm just gonna trace around the outer edge with hot glue. Then carefully remove the paper. Now let's just fill it in. And I'm just gonna make little dots all over the place because I think it might look like scales, but I don't want to make them too big because then it might be like really hard to bend it and stuff. I mean, it might not bend anyway, but I feel like thinner might be better. But in order to keep the shape of each little dot, we have to leave space between them while they're drying. This is definitely a lot of work for an experiment. We're just making tiny little dots. And I'm finding it goes a little faster if you just keep the nozzle on the mat and kind of like make your dot and then slide over. I think that might reduce our strings. Nope. Still have tons of strings. And now I'm filling in. So I have to like just look really closely and see where we need to fill in the gaps. This is gonna take a while. I have it pretty much covered. I do have some holes. I've been trying to fill them in, but it feels almost impossible. I probably should have laid down like a thin layer first and then put the dots on top, but it's a little too late for that now. And we're already having an issue with it being a little on the thick side. I like the texture, but I do have a lot of little strings that I am not excited about. I'm using a hairdryer to melt some of those glue strings. Do take care, it can melt your design. I wrap it around the lower half of the doll and I'm gonna just glue it down using hot glue, and I'm being very careful not to get burned. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's carefully trim off the excess. I can see the spots that I missed, so let's just fill some of those in. And try to be neat about it. Yeah. And we can clean up the seam along the back. All of those dots gave us a lot of texture. However, they also gave us weak spots in the tail. So far, this tail is not incredibly flexible, but it can bend. However, if you let go, it just kind of bends right back. However, if I bend it too much, I can start to see the spaces between the dots start to separate. Okay, so right now it's pretty easy to remove the tail from the doll. However, I do want it to fit a little tighter at the hips. So I'm gonna pinch and glue it together just a little bit at the hip. I did leave a little space in it because I had to make sure I could still remove it. And I can. I made a matching top. I just drew it directly onto the doll's body. We're using a Barbie color reveal for demonstration purposes. I added the little glue dots to be consistent with the tail and made it like a bra with a little closure in the back. All right, now let's make some fins. Let's take a piece of paper and fold it in half and sketch out a tail. I drew a large fin and a couple smaller ones, and we're gonna place this underneath the silicone mat. Hopefully we'll be able to see it. Yeah, I think we can make that out. I flipped it over and it's a lot easier for me to see in person. Trace along the lines, fill it in with thin lines, carefully peel it from the mat to make one side of the fin. This came out pretty good. It's very flexible. I don't have a ton of gaps in it, and I'm gonna glue it right onto the side of the tail. I added some small little fins under the chest. Let's add some at the hips and maybe another set down by the tail. Oh my goodness, this is looking pretty good. And it's all made out of hot glue. Look at that. Just being honest, for a second there, I thought this was going to be a total fail. The tail is not as flexible as I would like, but I think this was a really valuable learning experience, and maybe the second time around, we can do a little better. But I am not loving this right here. I probably could have brought the fins a little closer together. I just added a little dot of glue. I don't know, maybe that will work. Construction is pretty much done, so I guess now we can paint it. Although part of me feels like I'm gonna mess this up and I just wanna leave it as is. Maybe she's a jellyfish mermaid. Okay, we're gonna paint it. I wanna go for kind of a Mako Mermaids kind of vibe, but I also want it to kind of mesh a little bit with her skin tone. So I'm starting with a brown base coat on the main part of the tail. Placing it on a doll with the basic 5 points of articulation does make it a little easier to hold. Let's fade it out onto the fins just a little. Let's add a little orange going down the center. And we're gonna try to fade that out. Add a little bit to the fins. And this is really light because I want to keep a little bit of that translucentness, if that's even a word, on the fins. I'm allowing it to dry. While waiting, I work on the top. I started with a brown base coat, then added some orange, and we're fading it down on these little lower fins. Let's bring out the details in these fins and kind of just go over the little spines or veins. Sorry, I do not know fish anatomy. Let's add a little yellow in there so it's kind of fading from brown to orange to yellow. Yeah, we needed a little bit more color. It's definitely making it a little brighter. I'm going back and touching up some of those areas that I might have missed, and then I realized that they are actually holes. Let's use a little bright gold metallic paint to add a little shimmer to the tail. I'm starting with a very thin, light coat, and we can just build it up in the areas that we want. I'm gonna focus on putting it right down the middle. The gold is really softening that brown. Look at that. That doesn't look half bad. Sorry, I'm just like really surprised that this is looking halfway decent. Sometimes I go into projects having no idea if it's going to work at all. It's kind of exciting and scary at the same time. Let's not forget to work on the top so it matches and allow it to dry. To make a mermaid tail out of hot glue. I do wish it was a little more flexible, but for the most part, I'm happy. Let's put it on our doll, fasten the top in the back, to transform our doll into a mermaid. This took me about 1 day to complete. I started it this morning and we are done. Doing all of the little dots is definitely what took the longest, and trying to fill in the gaps. The fins took no time at all, and a good combination could possibly be making a cloth tail and then hot glue fins. That way you can get a little more flexibility. But she can sit up and stuff, so not too bad. Thank you for joining us while we made a mermaid tail for our dolls out of hot glue. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the Frog Vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. Bye! What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabs, and besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my miniverse. I know we've been doing a lot of mermaid content lately. I mean, it is mermaid. But to break it up, I was working on remodeling our wooden box rooms. But it's taking longer than expected. So we're gonna take a break and go back to the mermaids. We've made fabric tails and hot glue mermaid tails. In the comments, many of you wanted to know if we could combine the two and get the flexibility of a fabric tail with hot glue fins. So that's what we're gonna do. And we're going to try to do this project with some easy to find materials, like headbands. You know I love making doll stuff out of headbands. I picked this one up at Five Below. It's nice and stretchy. It has a tie-dye pattern and the fabric is pretty smooth. This one is also a double headband, so we're getting a lot of material here. It was $3.25. This one was also $3.25. It has a knot on one end. It's made out of a stretchy t-shirt material. It only stretches one way. It doesn't stretch out to the sides. This one doesn't stretch out to the sides either. Just that way. I found these tie-dye headbands at the Dollar Tree. They were $1.25 each, and it looks like we are getting a little bit of stretch in both directions. But on this headband, the fabric has like a little turn in the middle, so we're only getting that much fabric for our tail, which might be enough. We have a pastel tie-dye headband, a blue and white one, and blue and peach. I like the pattern on this one. I'm using a Barbie color reveal doll as a model. Hair is out the way and she is ready to go. Let's start with the headband from Five Below. This one has the most material, so if we make a mistake, we can always try again. I use a seam ripper to open the headband, and we end up with 2 long tubes of fabric. This one headband could probably give you like 4 mermaid tails, if it works. Let's take one and turn it inside out. Place the doll in the tube. I fold over the top edge, move the seam to the back, move the top edge to the hips, pinch the fabric to be snug on the doll. I use a few pins to hold it in place, going all the way down and enclosing the feet to hopefully get that mermaid shape. Then I use a needle and thread to sew a straight stitch all the way down. This is a pretty rough stitch, it's just my guide. Now I'm going to remove the pins. I remove it from the doll. Then we can go back and hand stitch it again, this time being a little neater, or use a sewing machine. Place it on the doll to make sure it fits, then trim off the excess. Remove it from the doll. This is kind of snug. But remember, this is our first one and we are learning. Flip it inside out. Try it on the doll to make sure it fits. It looks pretty good. However, I think I made it a little tighter than I wanted. So let's do it again. Good thing we have extra fabric. I'm gonna try to make a pattern by using my first tail and trace it onto a piece of paper. Here it is with the seam allowance and the fold down at the top. Let's sketch the seam allowance, which is going to be a little less than 1/4 of an inch because we want a little extra space. I copied it onto cardstock, cut it out, and we're going to remove the seam allowance. I place it onto our headband, trace around it with chalk, marking where we need to fold it down, fold it over, make sure it matches up, and redraw any lines if needed. Let's sew directly onto the line. I tried to do some fancy stitching, but decided to just stick with a straight stitch. Cut it out, and it worked pretty good. I have a little space at the top, so we're just gonna pinch it and sew it so it contours to the body. And now we have the fabric part of our tail. It doesn't take a lot of fabric, so let's try the dollar store headbands. With this, we get 2 wide strips and 1 thin one. The wide strips look long enough for our tail. Yeah, it worked. We can take the thinner strip, it has a little bit of stretch to it, move the seam near one of the sides, wrap it around the doll's chest, remove it from the doll, and sew a straight line to make a matching tube top. Make the little gather at the top of the tail, and we can do one to the tube top, giving us the base of our mermaid tail and a top. And there is enough headband left over to make a second one. That's right, 2 tails for $1.25. I took the fabric from our first failed mermaid tail and made a matching tube top. Oh, but this dollar store headband turned mermaid tail is probably my favorite. I'm loving those markings. As of right now, I think the dollar store mermaid tail is a little easier than the Five Below. This fabric is pretty soft, it lays thin, it doesn't create a lot of bulk, and making the tops is pretty easy since there was already a piece sewn to that size. Plus, with all of the material, we can make 2 mermaid tails for $1.25. That's about 63 cents each. With this Five Below headband, we could have gotten 4 tails if we hadn't made any mistakes, at 81 cents a piece. However, we might or might not have been able to get tops. Enough talking, let's get started on the hot glue. On a piece of paper, we're gonna sketch out our fin design. But first, I fold the paper in half. Then on the fold, we sketch half of the fin. Then darken it with a pencil, fold the paper the other way, rub over the pencil marks so they transfer to the other side. I went over it with a marker, then erased all of the pencil. Let's take our silicone mat. I bought this on Amazon, and we're gonna lay it with the good side facing down, right over the paper. I can see the drawing underneath. Then we go over it with hot glue, doing our best to follow the lines and fill in. I'm doing some really thin lines, and I'm just going to try to cover the areas that are outside of the spines. I think that's what they're called. I did the smaller ones as well and allow them to cool. Go over it with a second layer. Once cooled, peel it from the mat, and we should have a clear fin. Use scissors to trim it and make the edges nice and neat. Paint it. I'm adding a little blue acrylic paint. We can also add painted details to the fabric tail. I'm using a pearly paint to just make little dots. Let's add a few dots to the fins and use more pearly paint for a little shine. Once everything is dry, glue the fin to the bottom of the tail, right under the doll's feet, and we're using a little hot glue to hold it in place. Glue the smaller fins onto the sides, touch up the paint to complete our fabric mermaid tail with hot glue fins. So we can turn our made-to-move mermaid sisters back into mermaids whenever we want. And they've got flexible tails. And of course, you can choose to make the mermaids' tails match their original looks. I'm just placing them on whatever doll I want. Here is our Dollar Tree headband mermaid tail. It's blue and rose gold. This is a project you can easily make in a day, so get creative and have fun. Thank you for joining us while we made new mermaid tails. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the Frog Vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. Bye! What's up, doll collectors and gift givers? Today, we are taking a look at the Barbie barbecue playset with pet and scented grill. That's right, folks. It smells. Okay, so yeah, scented grill. That's a new one. I bought this on Amazon for $9.94. There is a sticker in the corner letting us know that it is scented, and we can take a whiff while it's still in the box. On the back, we can see all items included. However, the doll is not included. Let's get this out of the box. Out of the box, there is a red grill. The bottom is silver colored with faux wheels. There are little hooks on the legs to hang the included tongs and the oven mitt. Ah, that's kind of cool. The oven mitt is all squishy. The top of the grill can be removed. There is a pretty cool sculpted picture on the inside. We can make out charcoal, the glow from the fire, a grill, and lots of fresh food. A pretty cool feature is this little dial on the side. When we turn it, it looks like all of the food has been cooked. And everything is elevated a little bit, so there is some dimension. The included oven mitt is orange. The tongs are pink, and they have a little hand grip on the side. We have 2 plates of food. One has kebabs that are sculpted onto the plate, and there's those little brackets on the back so it can fit onto the Barbie furniture. And the other one is a hot dog. This set also comes with a cooler. The top is white, it says Barbie, and we have some cup holders on the sides. Or we can put the plates there as well. The bottom is a teal blue. It has faux wheels, and underneath is hollow. It opens, and inside we can see sculpted ice. We also get a blue water bottle, a blue can, and a bottle of mustard. This set also includes a little puppy to keep us company while we're grilling. And don't forget, there's a smell. To be honest, I can't really describe the smell. It kind of reminds me of a mesquite. I think it is a really cool idea to engage the senses while playing. And I think I would have loved this with like a candy shop or a bakery. I find this smell kind of interesting, and personally, I could live without it. But that doesn't mean that someone else wouldn't find this the coolest thing ever. But you know what? This has me thinking. I would like to make a grill of my own. We made a doll grill a long time ago, so I think this is a perfect time for an update. which means it's also time for a versus. How tall is this thing anyway? It looks like it's around 7 inches to the top of the lid. All right, good to know. Let's get started. For this project, I'm going to use cardboard. I have an old Amazon box that I can recycle. I only have half of a box. Let's hope this is enough. I might have to look for some more scraps. The tab on the box measures 13 3/4 inches, and it is 3 3/4 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off using scissors. I'm trying to be as neat as possible. Okay, I draw a rectangle in the center, about 7 inches from the bottom. I cut it out using an X-Acto knife, and I actually think it's a little too high, so I went down another 3/4 of an inch, which means it now starts at 6 1/4 inches from the bottom. I cut another piece that is 4 1/4 inches wider, and I traced the cutout as well. So this is going to be the back, and this will be the front. Cut a few strips that are 2 inches wide and the same length as the walls. I cut 4. I also cut a few to go around the rectangle, and a strip that is 1 1/4 inches for this side. Paint the inside of the rectangle using black acrylic paint. Glue a stone or brick scrapbook paper onto the smaller rectangles. I'm using a printable scrapbook paper from our blog. Let's glue them on the back of the cutout. Then glue the 2-inch strips onto the sides. So we're starting to make a box. Glue it onto the back wall. My black rectangle and the frame are not perfectly lined up, but I'll just go back and touch up the paint later. Now that my structure is standing, I take the 1 1/4 inch piece and glue the last 2 strips behind it to make a column that we will glue on the end. But I'm thinking I want to extend this side and add another column. So I made a second column. Then I cut a 6 inch by 6 inch piece and a 6 inch by 7 1/4, a 6 by 1 inch, and a 6 by 2 1/4. Cover the walls and both columns with stone scrapbook paper. Then I cut 2 rectangles that are 3 inches wide and 2 inches deep. Let's glue those onto the side, then glue on the side column. And I cut another piece of cardboard so we can close up the top. I covered it, and now I can glue it on top. Now I take these boards, I cover the small one with a wood grain paper, and the top of the other one with stone. Then glue it in between the column and the structure with the cutout. And you're going to want to put this on the very back edge. Glue the wooden one in front. Take the last 2 pieces, cover them with a marble paper, cover it with clear tape to make it shine, glue the larger one on top of the wood, and the shorter one on the stones. I want to fill this side with logs. However, I don't have any. So I went outside to try to find some sticks. However, it's been raining, so everything is wet. But I did find one in my craft room from a previous project. So I cut it into small pieces. And ideally, I would stack these on the shelves, but I just don't have enough. So I cut what I have and used a rubber band to hold them together and made a printable. Cut cardstock, fold it like a trifold to fit in one of the shelves. Glue the printable on the front, then push it in place to give the illusion of firewood until we can make it real. Now let's make a grill. I cut coffee stirrers to reach across the opening, then cut toothpicks and glue them going across. Touch up the paint on the inside and dry brush some burn marks I just ended up painting the whole bottom black because I had an idea. I cut craft foam into small cubes, then take red glitter glue and use it to glue the foam to the bottom to give the illusion of embers. A little trick we picked up from LOL Surprise. Once the glue is dried on the grill, paint it black. Once dried, glue it above the foam and the glitter. Then let's add a little line of thin silver metallic paper underneath to finish the grill. That might be a little hard to see because everything is black. So if we shine a little light on it, you can really see what it looks like. And we're still waiting for that glitter glue to dry. While waiting, let's add a base. Take another piece of cardboard and we're going to cut it to the length of our structure. For us, that's a little over 18 inches. I'm covering it with our printable concrete, then glue it underneath. All right, that works. Let's glue coffee stirrers across the opening. First, I glued a few going across, then I cut smaller pieces, and we're gonna glue those together, then glue them going across the top, giving us an area where we can hang like Christmas lights and stuff. I cut a piece of foil paper and glue it onto the wood. Add stickers. This is a puffy silver letter I to make a handle for a mini fridge. This is looking pretty good. All we need now is some food. I've got a couple of paper clips. Let's unfold them and straighten them out as best we can. Curl the ends, then cut it in half to make metal skewers. Then I cut thick white craft foam into cubes. Push the cubes onto the paper clip. I have a brown washable marker and a little bit of Mod Podge. I color on my palette. My palette has a layer of Mod Podge on it, and that's where I'm coloring. You could also do this on clear plastic. Then I take a little bit of the Mod Podge and mix it in with the brown marker, and it turns the Mod Podge brown. Now we're going to add a thin layer to all of the foam. Allow it to dry, then go back with the marker and just add a little extra browning to the edges. And I'm just dotting it on in some places and allowing the ink to kind of pool. We really want it to look like it's kind of caramelizing. I want a little more texture, so I'm mixing a little bit of paprika and Mod Podge together. Paint the foam with the mixture. Then once it dries, we have grilled tofu, Cajun style, or teriyaki, whatever it looks like to you. Then I added some of the spice glue mixture directly to the white foam to make it look like it hasn't been cooked yet. We can use the counter above the mini fridge as a prep station before we place our tofu on the grill. So there you have it. Barbie's grill with lots of colorful accessories. The top can open, their cooler opens, versus our giant outdoor grill. Our fridge doesn't open, but I really like the prep station, and this can create a whole scene. Storage may be an issue, but I am sure our dolls will have a lot of fun with it this summer. Let us know in the comments down below if our DIY came close or if it missed the mark. Thank you for joining us for another Versus. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! What's up, Fabs and Besties? Today, we're going to make a pergola to go with our outdoor grill. A pergola is an outdoor structure that provides partial shade for walkways, pathways, and seating areas. There are no walls, and it is considered a type of gazebo on some websites. For this project, we are using paint stirrers. I got 10 per pack for 97 cents at Lowe's. I bought 13 packs, which came out to be $13.50 after sales tax. I don't know if we're going to use 13, I just didn't want to have to go back. Unfortunately, these paint stirrers have a ruler on one side. The back is plain, so we'll just have to pay attention to which side we are using. And they have this little notch here cut out, which we're just going to have to learn to work with. Let's start by building pillars. I have 4 sticks, and I'm just going to glue them all together. I'm using tacky glue. I put the glue on the ruler side, then place another one on top so we no longer see it. If you have a few clamps, I would use those while drying. I picked these up at the Dollar Tree. It's been about 15 minutes and we're dry. I made 4. These measure about 12 inches. We need them to be 14, so we're going to have to build a base. So we're going to use some recycled cardboard. I cut it into 3 by 1.5 inch strips. I take 2, glue them together, draw a line 1 inch from the top, glue the paint sticks at the line, glue another one on the other side, making sure everything's lined up. I cut another small piece and I'm going to glue that at a diagonal on the inside. That's going to add a little extra support to that beam. Then measure the sides. For me, that's about 1 inch. Cut a strip of cardboard and we're going to glue that right onto the ends. I print off our stone printable, glue it going around the cardboard, place it onto a scrap of foam board or cardboard, and we want a little bit of an edge going all the way around. Then turn the pole around and trace the top, cut it out. I cover it with our concrete printable, slide it over the top of the paint sticks until it meets our little support base, then repeat to make 4. Next, I take a few sticks and make a mark at 9 inches so I can use my razor saw to cut on the line. Now, this can be pretty dangerous. It's a razor saw, and I'm just taking my time and slowly cutting through it. If you have a Dremel, that might work a little faster. Cut a large piece of cardboard. I'm using recycled cardboard. I cut it to 11 inches by 18. I drew 2 lines 9 inches apart. Glue the paint sticks between the lines. I'm using hot glue, and I make sure to glue it so the ruler side is facing down. Then I'll add 2 to this side and the other to make a large deck. Glue the pillars onto the corners. I am placing them on so the wider flat side is facing forward. Now we need to connect them across the top. I cut more 9-inch strips. I glue them together and glue a popsicle stick across the seam for extra support. Glue one across the top in the back, then one in front, sandwiching the beams on the inside. Repeat for the other 2. Take some of the leftover pieces we cut earlier, cut them in half, cut one end at an angle, then glue it into the corners. Glue more paint sticks going all the way down the entire top of the structure, evenly spaced, to complete our pergola. Place the grill behind it, and we've got a nice size outdoor area for our dolls, where we can add some lights for a little ambiance, hiding the battery pack behind one of the pillars. Add a table and chairs so the dolls have somewhere to sit. Now let's add a little green, like one of our paper plants in the middle of the table, and a few trees that we bought at Target in their value section. I'm just placing them by the pillars. Oh yeah, that really makes it come alive. We do have a lot of wood here. I would like to see a little contrast. So I take a placemat I bought at the Dollar Tree, cut off a smaller rectangle. I'm sealing the ends with the edge of my hot glue gun just to make sure they don't unravel. I guess I could have also used packing tape and then just cut it, but a little bit of glue works too. Place it on the floor to complete the look, giving our dolls a deck with a pergola to enjoy all summer long. At these measurements, Mini Toya has more than enough head clearance. Ken is pretty good as well. However, our Integrity Toy guys might have to duck a little. So our mini hubby will just have to sit at the table. Overall, I am very happy with how this turned out. The cutting was a little challenging, but we didn't need to do any cutting for the slats going across the roof. And I still have 6 packs left over. So we only used 7 to make this project. Thank you for joining us today while we made a miniature doll deck with a pergola. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! And our dolls can't wait to go outdoors. So let's make a backyard. We are going to make our backyard using the same dimensions we use for our rooms, which is a 15 by 12 inch corner room. And we're making our walls about 13 inches tall. So I take foam board from the dollar store, use a ruler to draw a 15 by 13 inch rectangle, a 15 by 12 inch rectangle, and a 12 by 13 inch rectangle. Cut on the lines drawn, and remember to always have adult supervision when crafting. So now I have 3 pieces to build my corner room. Take the 13 by 12 inch rectangle, draw a large door in the center, cut it out. Let's cut one more wall the same size so they line up. Cut clear plastic from packaging to get 2 long rectangles. My door is 6 inches across. Both of these are 3 1/4. Cover the edges with paper. Cut strips of poster board. I cut a few that are 7 inches by 1/4, 7 by 1/2 inch, and 12 by 1/2 inch. Take 2 of the 12 by 1/2 inch strips and glue them together. Repeat to make 2. Take one of the walls with the cutout and glue it to the floor. Take a 1/4 inch strip, glue it across the bottom. Take a 7 by 1/2 inch strip and glue it across the top, making sure only a 1/4 inch hangs over the edge. Take one of the rectangles of clear plastic, glue it directly onto the wall and to the strip at the bottom. Glue together 2 more 1/2 inch by 12 inch rectangles. Glue it onto the opposite side wall. Glue another 1/4 inch strip to the bottom and a 1/2 inch to the top. Take the other 2 12 inch strips. These both have 2 pieces of poster board. Glue them to the sides. Add another 1/4 inch strip to the bottom and a 1/2 inch strip to the top. On the top, I only glued it on the corners, creating a track at the top and bottom. Take the other rectangle of clear plastic, place it between the tracks, making sure it can move back and forth. Take the other wall cutout, take scrapbook paper with a concrete print and glue it to the bottom. Cut several 1 inch strips of poster board, glue them onto the foam board, overlapping just a little. To make siding, glue it onto the wall, cut thin strips of foam board and glue them on for trim. Paint and cut skinny sticks glue them onto the clear plastic that moves to make a handle. Our door keeps lifting at the top, so I glue together some leftover pieces of poster board, glue it between the layers of the wall to make a sliding glass door. I glued the handle and trim on both sides, so when we're inside the dollhouse, it's nice and clean. Glue on paper to look like outside, glue it to the wall and the floor. I want there to be a concrete patio, one that is large enough for our doll picnic table. I cut a piece of foam board, trace it onto the floor, remove it, glue down brown scrapbook paper, just enough to cover the area that is not under the patio. Cover the foam board for the patio with a concrete print, glue it to the floor. Take giant craft sticks, glue them onto the back wall. I added another piece across the top to make a wooden fence. Make another corner room to extend the size of the yard. But now we have a yard where nothing is growing. So let's do something about that. Cut strips of leftover foam board, glue paper onto the front, glue them about an inch from the fence. Take artificial plants and glue them right behind it for a little splash of green. On the other half of the yard, I made 2 levels for more areas to plant. These tall ones in the back, I'm not gluing them down, I'm just placing them right behind so that I can change them out throughout the seasons. So our dolls can have fun doing a little gardening. For the grass, we want to add a little texture. So I take a green mossy colored yarn, cut it into small pieces. That looks pretty good. Take tacky glue, apply it in small amounts to the brown paper, then push the yarn into the glue. This can get kind of messy, but we're just going to continue adding glue and yarn to cover all of the dirt with grass. I am pretty generous with the glue to make sure everything is where I want it to be. Oh no, my fingers look like the Grinch. This is going to take a while. So far we have completed one of the box rooms and I really like the texture. But I probably should have went with a richer color cause yeah, this looks a little bit like moss. Once it's dried, carefully brush off the excess to make a backyard of grass that is soft enough for your dolls to wiggle their toes in. Now I have some glue stuck to the back of my fence because I reused them from another project. But now we have to find a way to cover it up. So I take 2 square wooden dowels. These are 12 inches long, cut 3 inches off of each side, glue them together to make a rectangle with 2 legs. Take wood coffee stirrers, glue them going across at a diagonal, first in one direction, then the other, to make a lattice fence. Weave artificial plants through it, stand them in the flower beds on the back wall to finish our doll backyard, where we can place our picnic table so our dolls can enjoy eating outdoors, or we can place our kiddie pool from a previous video in the backyard to cool off on a sunny afternoon. And since we built this in the same dimensions as our other box rooms, we can just line them all up to extend our dollhouse. And now our dolls can walk out the sliding glass door and into the backyard. Thank you for joining us while we made a doll backyard. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And you're done. Happy crafting!
Don't forget it. Yeah, just do it. Get into it. We pull through it. We fall in love and out again. It's all the same. The cycle never ends. So go get it.
Here is a craft to make your doll's summer extra fun. We are going to make a doll-sized DIY pool floaty using gallon-sized baggies, clear tape, bubble wrap, and acrylic paint. I start by taking a gallon-sized baggie, cut off and remove the top. We still have 3 sides that are sealed. The bottom sealed edge will be the crust for our pizza pool floaty. So I fold the baggie in half, then fold over the bottom corners to make a triangle. Make a crease, then fold it over, and repeat on the other side, making sure the lines match up. Cut on the folded line, leaving you with a triangle shape that is still attached at the top, but open on the sides. Open it up. Our baggie has a print on one side and is clear on the other. The side that is clear will be the top of our pizza floaty. The other side will just be the bottom and look like crust. Since it's on the bottom, I'm not too worried about that print. However, if this does bother you, you can just look for a baggie that has no print. Now we need to use paint. Everything has to be painted in reverse. So from the other side, you can see all of the toppings. On my palette, I mix brown and red satin acrylic paint to make a pepperoni color. On the clear plastic, paint a few circles. Take green paint for bell peppers. I'm just making small curve shapes. Add a lighter green on the edge. Mix light gray and brown. Paint an oval. Add a stem underneath. Add a brown shadow to the edge. For mushrooms, take black paint. Make small circles, leaving a hole in the center. Allow it to completely dry. Hold it up to the light and check for holes. Add a second coat if needed. I'm just putting plain red behind the pepperonis and allow it to dry. Take a yellow paint, either a gloss or a satin, and paint right over the toppings. Allow it to dry, so when you flip it over, it looks like cheese. Be careful when you're painting the cheese because some of the paint may go under the toppings. I am mixing a couple of different browns to make my crust. Paint it across the top, leaving a small space in between. Let the paint go over the crease and paint the other side of the plastic. Allow it to dry. Take red paint to fill in the last opening. This is the tomato sauce on our pizza. After everything is completely dry, place bubble wrap on top. Cut a large triangle that is slightly smaller than the plastic. Cut several. I have a total of 5 layers. Use tape to tape them together. Place it onto the plastic. Take the other side and pull it over. Overlap the edges and secure with tape. Go around all the sides. For a pizza slice pull floaty. Since we painted it on the other side of the plastic, we don't have to worry about the paint scratching off. Since it's made with bubble wrap and plastic, I'm pretty certain it will float. But can it hold the weight of a doll? Our fresh doll Tamara is going to try out the pool floaty for the first time. I kind of think this is a matter of balance. So we just gotta get her to balance on the pizza. And yeah, wow, that was pretty easy. Ha! It works! Look at Tamara, all extra chill, enjoying a day at the pool. Make more, so all the dolls can enjoy a little sun. Thank you for joining us while we made our DIY pizza pool floaties. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And you're done.
Happy crafting!
What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabs, and besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my Miniverse. In the video where we made this little pool that can turn into a beach, I showed a little splash at the end but didn't show how to make it. Oh no, the puppy! Adding this faux water effect is a lot of fun. It adds another layer to our photos. Just think about all the different things we could do. So we're gonna explore a few ideas today and make some faux water. Let's get started. We made a splash in our little mermaid video. This splash is pretty large and it can hold a mermaid standing upright. It's made with clear plastic from packaging. This was a mini brand's tube, I think. And I hope we can pull off this sticker. Yep. And we need clear hot glue. Let's start off by making a little splash. Let's cut some of this clear plastic. This is a scrap left over from another project, so it's already kind of jagged. It measures about 4 inches long, and I'm just gonna cut what I think might be a few water-like shapes. Toya, this is kind of impossible to see. So I traced it on a piece of paper so you can get an idea. It's totally random and we're just trying to get some different shapes in there. I'm going to bend it and glue it to make a small circle. But first, let's take the clear plastic and bend it outward a little. Then, using the hot glue gun, let's start to add glue around the edges of the plastic, softening them and giving them a little dimension. Warning, hot glue is hot. When applied to plastic, the plastic might move. Plan accordingly. Now with the hot glue added, hopefully you can see it better. All of our plastic is curling that way. Let's add a little glue, all squiggly at the bottom. Once cooled, let's trim it to get a flat edge, then bend and glue the two ends together. Now let's add more glue in little squiggles and leaving some gaps. So it looks like there are holes in the water. We can add a little glue to the other side as well, but the more glue you add, usually the more opaque it becomes. But covering both sides gives us a nice rounded look. So I make sure to cover all the little points. Now let's add a few drops of glue on the ends and allow it to make like a little drip. But we don't want the drip to fall. So have a fan close by to make sure it dries before it actually drips. We are really using gravity here to help shape these. Once it's dry, it's going to give us a great look. Continue adding drips. Oh, that's a good one. I try to add just one at a time so I can pay attention and get them to dry before it drops. Then just continue to make a splash that we can place in our scene wherever we want to add a little something extra. Is he falling in the pool or jumping out? I don't know, but I like the effect. I made another one that kind of looks like a tree. I used just one flat piece of plastic on a silicone mat. Let's make a small circle of glue, probably about the size of a nickel, a quarter, somewhere between there. I allow the glue to cool. Let's take our splash and glue it to the center. Hold it for a few seconds while it dries. I'm using a little more hot glue to kind of look like ripples on the bottom. So we're taking that mound of glue and we're just going to try to make it blend out a little. Once cooled, remove it from the mat. Take a miniature bowl. This one is from the Make It Mini Spa collection. Place the splash inside, then add a doll to look like water is splashing out of the bowl. Perfect for a morning routine photo where the doll is washing her face. With something as simple as a little bit of plastic and hot glue, we can add a whole nother level to our photos. Let's take a pair of doll shoes. These are from an Amazon fashion pack. Take clear plastic from packaging and cut a circle-like shape. Add lines of hot glue to look like ripples spreading out from the center. Use more plastic to make a few splashes, just like we did before, starting out by going around the edge, and then just making a few little squiggles on the inside. It's kind of random. Add a few drips and allow it to cool. Take a doll shoe that you don't mind gluing to the project. I chose a shoe that goes past the doll's ankle. I'm hoping it's going to help it to stand. I place the shoes on a doll and then glue it to the plastic. I'm pretty generous with the glue, and now I'm just gonna hold it while it cools. Then remove the doll. I'm adding a little more glue for weight and to make sure those shoes are really on there. Then glue on the splashes going around it, going out to the sides, so when we place the doll's feet in the shoes, we have a doll stand that can hopefully support the doll's weight, while making it look like they jumped into a puddle and the water is splashing up. How cute would this be with a little raincoat and an umbrella? Let's make another water effect using clear plastic. Let's cut a large piece. I cut a square that's about 7 inches. Place a doll under it. Using a dry erase marker, let's just outline the doll's face. Then I use an X-Acto knife to cut it out. Erase the marker. See how it fits on the doll. Then just add our little ripple effect going around it. I'm keeping the glue pretty thin and just in one continuous motion. I keep making the circle bigger and bigger and bigger to create a scene where the doll is just casually floating in the water. This piece of plastic has a little line in it that I just noticed. So let's cut the opening a little larger so we can place it over a doll's head to make it look like she is sticking her head out of the water. Loving this for a mermaid photo shoot. From this angle, we can't see the scratch, and we're still getting all of that great texture from the hot glue, allowing us to do a water photo shoot with no water. I'm not a huge fan of placing my dolls in water, so faux water totally works for me. We're recycling a little plastic, and we can easily store it in one of our wall boxes, like the one we made for our pool/beach. So whether they're a mermaid or just chilling by the pool, this summer our dolls can make a splash wherever they go. And honestly, the faux water makes taking an action shot so much easier. Thank you for joining us while we made a splash. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the frog vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. Bye!
Hardest thing to do. Did it all for you. Hardest thing to do. Did it all for you. Hardest thing to do. Did it all for you. Yeah, seems like a back goes I go ready.
The weather's getting nice, and you know what that means. Time for a little fun in the sun. Like maybe an outdoor concert? Now, yes, we do have a concert stage, but today we're gonna make a smaller one, perfect for an outdoor music festival. I'm using black foam board, cotton swabs, you're gonna need a lot of these, wooden dowels, silver acrylic paint, scrapbook paper. I went with something kind of sparkly for the back wall, acrylic gems, and our printable speakers. These can be found on our blog, myfroggystuff.blogspot.com. I start by taking black foam board, draw a 12 by 8 inch rectangle. I use an X-Acto knife to cut on the line drawn for the top of our little stage. Cut 2-inch strips of foam board, glue one underneath, leaving a little space in front. Glue more strips onto the sides to make a platform. I cut 2 1/4 by 3-inch rectangles. Then I cut a 2-inch piece. Take one of the larger pieces and the short one, then glue them together. Cut a thinner piece to glue onto the side. Glue another one on the other side. Glue the last one onto the back to make a box. Make 4. glue them onto the corners of the platform, cut a piece of foam board to fit between the two boxes, glue it between the boxes. I added another piece of foam board underneath to make stairs. I made them on both sides. Cut out the printable speakers, glue them onto the front two boxes to make large speakers in front of the stage. Take two wooden dowels, make a mark every inch, repeat for both wooden dowels, cut the ends off of cotton swabs. I space the wooden dowels 1.25 inches apart, glue on the cut cotton swabs. I place one end at 1 inch and the other end at 2 inches. Glue on the next one. Continue making a zigzag going down the wooden dowels. Repeat to make more. I made 10 that are 12 inches long and 4 that are 8 inches long. Even though I am pretty certain we're gonna have to trim these down once we start to assemble the rest of the stage. Paint each one. I'm using a silver acrylic paint. This part takes a while, and you might need more than one coat. Allow them to completely dry. I think we're good now. Take two and turn them so the cotton swabs are on the inside. This will make a crisscross pattern. Space them out a little and glue a cotton swab between them. I'm gluing one at the top, in the center, and at the bottom. I glued them on both sides. Touch up the paint so everything is silver. Once dried, glue them onto the boxes. I'm using hot glue. I have 5 of these long ones, and I'm going to take one and glue it right across the top in the back. Then glue on the other side. Now for the shorter ones. I was going to make these just like the columns, but instead I think I'm going to take one and just glue it across the top to add some stability. Now that our stage is completely constructed, let's add a little detail. I'm going to wire it with some LED lights. Weave the wire throughout the scaffolding. I made sure that the wire on my lights was silver so it could blend in. Well, as much as possible. Place the battery pack underneath the back of the stage. We can tape it in place so it's easier to move around. The lights are pretty small, but it's so much easier using one battery pack to control all the lights instead of clicking them on individually like our first stage. And I really like how the colors change. They go from yellow to green, blue, purple, red, adding a little bit of sparkle. For a little more sparkle, we can take acrylic gems, glue them onto the wooden dowels. I started on the bottom of one side, went all the way up, across the top, and then back down. I have a mini disco ball Christmas ornament. I'm gonna attach it right in the center at the top. Anything we can do to add a little more sparkle. I found this shiny scrapbook paper at Michael's. I cut it and glue it onto the floor. I am using a glue stick to attach the paper, giving us a shiny floor that creates a cool reflection. We could take more shiny paper and place it in the back to give the stage a background. However, I kind of like the open look, so I remove the back wall. Let's add some of our Amazon rugs to the stage. Take the microphone we bought at the dollar store and place it on the stage. Lay cut pieces of fabric around the bottom of the stage. I want these to look like rugs. Add a few thin pillows and some decorative ones to complete our outdoor music festival stage. So we can pretend like our dolls are at Coachella. We got that whole bohemian vibe going on. Our dolls can sit down on the lawn and enjoy a musical afternoon. Thank you for joining us while we made a music festival stage with, of course, working lights. I really like the smaller size of this stage, and I like how we elevated it with a platform that has stairs on the sides. Making all of the scaffolding was very time-consuming, but it is totally a must for this look. And we found a great use for our short microphone from the dollar store. As long as the artist is sitting down, it works perfectly. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye! Thank you for joining us for another MyFroggyStuff mashup. Let us know what mashups you would like to see in the comments down below. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at MyFroggyStuff and Bella of MyFroggyStuff on Instagram. And we will see you next time. Bye!